We kick off Firstborn with Worf practicing his speech for Alexander, and no points if you guessed it had something to do with being a warrior, because of course, nothing matters to Worf more than honor.
No, wait!
Perhaps because dignity is in such short supply. Worf picks up the shattered bits that he has left to lay into Alexander for screwing around instead of coming here for their planned father-son meeting. And it's frustrating because this is important.
As time passes, a boy inevitably becomes a man, but what is not inevitable is that a man becomes a sword.
It's a metaphor. Oh, like with the sex talk. Yes, well, no, not in the same way. Alexander's approaching the rite of ascension, where he will be tested, both in his understanding of the teachings of Kahless, as well as his skills in fighting. Lighting this candle is announcing Alexander's declaration of intent to be a warrior, only Alexander isn't so sure about that. Worf says that there is a bit of a time limit here, and has to be done while he's still young.
You will never be able to become a true Klingon warrior.
Well, I don't care about that.
You may not care about it now, but someday you might.
Well, Mother always said that I didn't have to do any of this Klingon stuff.
And she said that it's okay for me to have ice cream for breakfast, and I don't have to go to school if there are cartoons on. Worf doesn't want to force the kid, but he's clearly disappointed that his son is, well, such a wiener. After the titles, Picard has held a meeting to say that there's a delay with the rendezvous, so they're all going to have to wait here. Except for him, because there are interesting ruins being excavated on a nearby planet, and he's going to check them out. And hopefully not be shot and kidnapped this time. Also, this would be a good chance for further study of the nearby nebula and, other work.
Federal sensor grid.
We could use this time to recalibrate the weapons targeting system.
Oh, sorry, sir. I'll fire weapons at the ruins right away. Picard asks after the meeting what's up.
I'm having problems with Alexander. He has made it clear he does not wish to participate in the first...
Oh, sorry, yes, that is a pity. Have you tried, building a ship in a bottle with him? I know that's what all the young people love. I don't think that would work, sir. Well, then the boy's beyond hope, Worf. Just get used to it. Picard finally figures that perhaps what Alexander needs is more exposure to Klingon culture, and it just so happens that there is a festival being held tomorrow on an outpost just on the other side of this nebula. Picard suggests they take the Enterprise there. It would be good for Alexander, and let the astro nerds map the nebula on the way. What a waste of money. They could have just gone to Comic-Con and filmed this for nothing. This is a reenactment of someone opposing the tyrant Molar.
What's he saying?
If only we had some kind of a universal translator in order to help us understand, huh? Still, it could be worse. We could have nothing but subtitled Klingon for minutes on end. That wouldn't get old fast, would it? This event is open to the public, so Worf decides to join in. He needs to reenact a guy who gets his ass kicked by Molar, and if there was one role he was ever born to play, well, this is it. Once Worf is vanquished, he seems to be calling out for someone else to try to challenge the bad guy, and Alexander finally steps up to oppose him. After he's done, Worf says that there is only one person who can truly stand up to Molar, and that's Kahless himself. So there's another fight, and Alexander, he's having a grand old time, although he wants to have some money so he can go see Molar's severed head in a box, and Worf won't pay. If you want to see a severed head, you go chop one off yourself, boy. But on the way, they're ambushed by 3 bad dudes. But luckily for Worf, some mysterious stranger intervenes, providing a distraction so Worf can drive them off. Turns out he's Gintok to the House of Mogh, an advisor considered part of the family, and his name is Kimtar. Kern sent him to go protect Worf from the Duras sisters as part of a plan to claim Kern's seat on the council, though the full extent is in question. You never know what those two are getting up to. Hell, half the time they probably don't know either. They just fall back on treachery by default. The last time anyone had seen them was on Deep Space Nine, so Riker's going to act on that. But first, in private, Worf takes Kimtar to task for disrespecting Riker like he did. But Kimtar uses that to segue into the real concern, that Alexander is going to one day lead their house, and with the upbringing he's had, he's less Klingon than he is Wesley. With his disinterest in the rite of ascension, well, their fate is sealed. So together the two are going to try approaching Alexander to convince him to reconsider. The gruff Krimtar seems like his idea of convincing Alexander is to beat him with leather straps until he says yes, but instead he's quite empathetic and says the right things to lead Alexander to think maybe being a warrior isn't such a bad idea. Official channels with DS9 turn up bubkiss on the Duras sisters, so Riker goes instead to the best unofficial source, Quark. Quark owes him because Riker won so much at the Dabo table he had to be paid in Quark vouchers. Might as well have had fun bucks stamped on them. So with that leverage, Quark is only too happy to discuss some Klingon troublemakers. Besides, all they wanted was some used mining equipment.
They learned of a magnesite deposit on the Kala system. Belongs to the Packlins, but those fools don't even know it's there.
The Packlins don't know, huh? What a surprise. So they plan to go check it out, much to Kimtar's surprise. No offense intended, of course, Commander. I just thought you were a hopeless flailing coward who would fly into a panic if someone gave him a fish fork instead of a salad fork. Offense taken. It was an oyster fork. It'll take 16 hours to get to the system with the mine, so in the meantime, Worf and Alexander can work on Kimtar's new training program, set in the same outpost where they were attacked, to allow Alexander a chance to participate in a battle that he was forced to hide during originally. So they quickly jump into a fight with two simulated Klingons. Damn, Worf, you stabbed him right in the honor and courage. I guess Klingon honor doesn't include no hits to the junk. With a few pointers, Alexander is able to knock down his attacker, but he doesn't deliver the death blow.
You should have killed him when you had the chance.
Why did you not?
Uh-oh, that's the tone when the old man catches you smoking. Let's hope he doesn't use that as a precedent. We are going to sit right here with a pack of Klingons, and we're not leaving until you've murdered every last one, young man. Alexander leaves dejected, and personally, I think that maybe kill someone shouldn't be a requirement of someone 2 minutes into the program. I think even ISIS waits at least 5 before bringing the murder into it. So they've arrived and beamed down to the mine, only to find that the mining is finished and the only one still there is some alien named Gorta. This poor schmuck is stuck here because the Duras sisters made off with everything. So in exchange for helping him not be trapped in a mine, he says where the pair was going. The guy has one scene, and to continue what I mentioned in Court Martial, he has more personality in that than the space pirates of Gambit all put together. Anyway, while they head to catch the Duras sisters, Kimtar suggests to Worf that, to help Alexander get caught up, that he should go to a special training academy to ensure he is fully prepared to take his role one day. But Worf doesn't want to send Alexander away, and things get very heated. While it goes unstated, we can glean that he is torn. Worf loves his son, and thus wants him to be a true Klingon, but the same love also means he doesn't want to disappoint the boy, or send him away. Kimtar is pushing buttons that Worf just doesn't want pushed. Kimtar continues trying to teach Alexander, but Alexander is questioning the teachings, and not their accuracy, but the interpretation. Like maybe Kalis' brother ran away because he didn't want to possibly hurt his brother in a fight, rather than just being a coward. What bugs Kimtar is Alexander's approach is a human one, which is to say, a critical, rational one. I don't say that as an insult. The point of the story isn't to be a historical accounting, but to serve as a parable, a story meant to teach and reinforce a viewpoint. This is unsurprising given the type of honor code that the Klingons employ. Such stories would impress the values of that code upon its members, and show examples to emulate and heretics to shun. Alexander's questioning is bothersome because it's another sign that he doesn't want to follow the ways of the Klingons, and at this rate, he's never going to get the chance to be surrounded by men beating him with pain sticks. Kimtar tries to get Alexander to want to go to that school, but the kid doesn't want to. Being a warrior sucks, and he probably wouldn't get to throw water balloons at anybody. Meanwhile, the hunt for the Duras sisters is seemingly turned up empty. There's a freighter, but no Klingons, although not all of the ore is accounted for. Riker shows his cleverness by deducing that they interrupted the delivery and the key of prey is cloaked there, so he tricks the trader into letting Riker blow up the ore, which helps them spot the cloaked ship. Lursa and Bator are cheesed off at this, but play dumb over the assassination attempt on Worf, and when shown the dagger, say that it was obviously planted. But they're soon taken aback upon realizing that something is up with that. The crest doesn't show the current symbol of their house, and not even a past symbol, but rather a future one which incorporates Lursa's son, a son she only just realized she was pregnant with. This dagger is not only planted evidence used in attempted murder, but even worse, it's slut-shaming. The answer comes soon after Kimtar goes into Alexander's room with a disruptor, intent on shooting the boy. Worf catches him, forcing Kimtar to admit that he is, in fact, Alexander from the future. He was able to arrange a trip here in order to fix a great wrong. When he grew up, he thought he could bring peace to the Klingons.
But why? What is going to happen that is so terrible?
You will be killed because I was too naive, too weak to be able to protect you.
Yes, well, that's hardly a spoiler there. Alexander declared that there would be no more vendettas and retributions in the hopes that this would bring about peace. Instead, it was taken as a weakness that their enemies exploited, killing Worf, and just leaving Alexander to stand there with his no vengeance pledge dangling there all pink and naked. So he came back here and staged the assassination attempt in the hopes that it would convince Alexander to become a warrior. After all, clearly witnessing Worf die turned Alexander into a warrior at some point. It was just a question of triggering that drive earlier. Worf instead offers words of encouragement, saying that the cause Kimtar/Alexander pursued, peace, was and is worthwhile. And maybe it's not Alexander that needs to change, but Worf himself. So he offers young Alexander words of encouragement, and anyone who has seen Sons of Daughters can tell you he really backed the wrong pony. The post-episode follow-up. Annoying character goes to Alexander. I have no interest in the character, even now. Final score for Firstborn is 4 out of 10. There are some good moments, certainly, and it is well performed, but it's too long, and this kind of thing is something that, I never thought I'd say this, Voyager did better. Timeless delivers a much more effective emotional payload, though that in part is because of the nature of this story. Alexander is a tool the writers don't seem to know what to do with, and while this is one of the better ideas, its presence makes that all the more glaring. The Alexander story has the same two notes over and over again. Alexander doesn't want to be a Klingon, Worf is exasperated with him. Ethics did use it well, and again, this one did make better use of it, but it's still just an uninteresting relationship because of that. This episode doesn't quite reach the same level as the typical episode of TNG as a result. Just a little too much meh, which weighs down the positives. But if you're a fan of Klingon culture, I'm sure you got more out of this. There's a lot of the Klingon language and culture on display, even if it is bittersweet knowing that this is moving towards a future where the hand of peace will be swept aside in the name of death.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
In order to tarnish our good name.
You cannot tarnish a rusted blade.